You're listening to Mic Drop Moments, a podcast brought to you each week with me, your host, Sandra Garlick. During the podcast, I invite guests to share their amazing stories, knowledge and top tips, including their mic drop moments, especially for you. I also share my learning and inspiration about life, business growth and visibility. I'm delighted to bring the Mic Drop Moments podcast to you each week to inspire and motivate you to achieve. Enjoy the podcast and don't forget to leave a review. Mic Drop Moments is sponsored by Grow Radio. Want to launch your own podcast? Grow Radio are here to help. Grow Radio has launched and supported countless podcasts, and they'd love to do the same for you. Just hit record and they'll handle the rest. No editing stress, no technical faff, just a great podcast released when you want. Need a little extra support? Grow Radio's workshops and courses make getting started easy. Let's bring your podcast to life. Message Grow Radio on social media. Let's make this happen. Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of Mic Drop Moments. And it's great to have you here with a brand new topic this month, budget for financial success. And I've got a solo episode here for you today where I'm going to share some of my tips, some of my personal stories, and why I think this is a really important topic to cover. And it's not always a glamorous topic either. I mean, I've made it no secret over the years, and I've told my accountant this on numerous occasions, that I've got a very special word for my accounts, and it begins with a B and ends with a D. It's not a very pleasant word. It's not one I'm going to repeat on here, but yes, they are not my favorite thing to do, but they are a necessity in business. And I'm going to tell you why your numbers and your financial budgets are so important to your business success and growth overall. So it's critical, and that's why I'm going to cover it in this episode. So I know what you're thinking, budgeting, eek, sounds a bit dry, but I promise you, I will share some of my highs and lows of budgeting. I love spending money, always have done. I used to play shops when I was little. I used to play post offices. I used to play banks. I was always the banker, the post office clerk. And then I used to go and buy things off myself. And I always used to love playing with money as a child. And even though I used to try and save my money, it didn't last very long. I'd go and spend it. So I am a spender, not a saver. But I like being able to buy what I want when I want. And the only way I can do that is to generate the income to do that. And obviously, I've got to look at the future as well. But I'm being quite strategic with my financial budgeting at the moment. And that's all come about as a part of implementing strategy into my business in a big way over the last 18 months. Anyway, let's get stuck in. Stick with me, because I promise you, a budget, when it's done well, is one of the most powerful and liberating tools in your business. And I've actually got spreadsheets as well as my financial trackers on my software. And I actually get quite geeky about this. So it's not about restriction, it's about freedom. And that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm generating freedom so that I can go on holiday when I want to do. And love my holidays and I love my shoes. So it's all about that for me, but it's about clarity as well, and making your money work for you so that you're stepping into 2026, not just surviving, but actually thriving. So let's talk about why budgeting really matters. And financial success is rarely down to luck. Quite often I see people saying, oh, it's okay for them because they've always had money, or they're just really lucky, or they make money really easy. It's not always that. Sometimes you see that beautiful swan gliding and the little feet are going like the crazy underneath. And that's what some of these really successful people do. They work hard, but they may not show that. And I work very hard behind the scenes, and I do share that with my members in my academy. But the most successful solopreneurs and business owners don't wing it. They're really intentional. My word for 2024 was intentional. Everything I did in 2024 was intentional for the future. You'll hear me going on a lot about, does it make the boat go faster? The old Olympic rowing team, that's how they trained. They used that analogy. And if it didn't make the boat go faster, they didn't do it. They threw it out the boat. And that's exactly the same with me. Everything I look at, every shiny object that comes my way, I always ask myself the question, will it make the boat go faster? And if not, sadly, I have to say no. So it's not down to luck. As I say, it's intentional. And part of that intention comes from knowing your numbers. I've lost count of the number of people that enter my awards and they go into their interviews. And when the judges say, tell me a little bit about your financials, they say, oh, I don't do anything with my financials. I leave that to my accountant. I have no idea. Or I'm number blind. Or, oh, I only look at that when the accountant sends me the figures at the end of the year. You need to know your numbers, because how can you make those decisions in your business if you don't know how much you've got to spend? And you don't need to become an accountant overnight, but you do need to know what's coming in. You need to know what's going out and where your money is working hardest. And when you've got that nailed even, you stop asking, where has all my money gone? And then you can say confidently, oh, here's where I'm choosing to invest it, whether that's something in your business or externally. And it's a huge mindset shift, and it's working with a growth mindset, because quite often if we ignore our financials, it's at our peril. So think of your budget like a recipe or a travel itinerary. When you're traveling somewhere, you don't suddenly say, right, we're going to Edinburgh today. It's straight up the motorway and we just keep on going. You don't suddenly say, oh, let's divert to Blackpool on the way, and oh, let's go into Carlisle, and let's pop over here. We'll just nip over to Wales on the way up. You don't do that. If you're going somewhere specific, you go somewhere specific, unless you're on a road trip, of course. But this is the thing with money. We get distracted. We get so easily distracted by things. And if you're anything like me, I've got no sense of direction. I got lost in Malta. That's another story. And I took everybody else with me and we got lost. But we found something wonderful when we did. But you always need to know where you're heading with your financials. And it's really good to have that sense of direction. So let me ask you a question. If I asked you right now what your income and expenses are this month, could you tell me the answer with confidence? Because if you don't know that, then how are you going to be able to make those decisions further down the line? And if not, then your first action step from listening to this today is to get to know your numbers, get familiar with them, get friendly with them, make them your absolute bestie. So budgeting is a growth tool. It's not always about restriction. And a golden nugget really is, it's not about cutting back to the bone. It's about growth, but it's aligning your money with your business priorities or maybe your personal priorities. Because if you make more money, you can take more money. And when you make that shift in thinking, suddenly your budgeting isn't restrictive. It becomes empowering. So you're no longer reacting to the financial surprises and doing that feast and famine. You're making decisions that support where you actually want to go. So where do you budget for maximum benefit? Well, where do you focus? What do you focus on first? So first up, look at your operating costs. And I say, do a subscription audit. Those subscriptions and memberships that we forget about. Go through your bank statements. I go through mine every single month, but as a very minimum, I'd be doing this every 90 days. I love to work in 90-day cycles. And look at every single expense that goes out. I've found things on my bank statement that I don't even know what they are. And when I've queried them with the bank, it has been a bank error. Yes, they do still make mistakes. Or somebody's taken a payment they're not entitled to take. Or I've signed up for something and haven't realized that it's rolled into a subscription. or a renewal may have come up for something that I wasn't going to renew. So it's a good idea to keep on these things, because as business owners, we are inherently busy, and sometimes we forget what we've signed up for. We forget, especially with everything being in the online world right now, with all the apps and everything that we've got, we forget. I do this at least, as I say, I do it every month, but I do it at least quarterly anyway. And I would recommend that, but I do it monthly now myself. And I always find money I can free up. And I don't just look at my business expenses either. I look at my personal subscriptions, because they add up too. I realized I was paying for Disney Plus, I was paying for Apple TV, I was paying for Netflix, I was paying for Prime, I was paying for something else. I hadn't watched them for months. I probably watch an hour's TV a day, and quite often that's BBC iPlayer and occasionally Netflix. So why was I paying for all these subscriptions? And I let them go. And well, I didn't dare look back at how many months I've been paying those. And it's the same with gym memberships, isn't it? We pay them and keep on paying them, and we forget and we don't use them. If you're like me, pay for a gym membership and say, I've got a gym membership. You suddenly feel super fit and healthy, but you don't actually go. I used to go and get my nails done, but then they closed the nail bar. I'm briefly interrupting this podcast. Did you know that speaking is one of the fastest ways to grow your audience? Why not attend the Mic Drop SPEAKER Bootcamp experience? You can attend online or face-to-face, or a hybrid mix of both. These bootcamp experiences are packed full of practical learning, as you'll not only get all the theory, but you'll get to put it into action too. Be prepared to step outside of your comfort zone and grab the mic to deliver a keynote speech that you can deliver confidently on stage again and again. Book your place at womanwho.co.uk/events. Now back to the podcast. Second one is marketing and visibility. Now, I believe, well, I would say this, wouldn't I? It's a non-negotiable. Visibility fuels revenue. If you're the world's best kept secret, then nobody's going to know about you. I've made no secret of the fact that I've invested heavily in sponsorship and events in the current 90 days. And that's strategic. There's a purpose behind that. I've got objectives. It's to lead into something else. You can't just hope that your clients will find you and stumble across you. So you need to budget for that marketing, for that visibility, whether that's advertising, attending events, sponsorship, collaborations, PR, all those different things that boost your visibility. So this current 90 days that we're in right now, which started on the 1st of October and will end on the 31st of December, I'm attending events, I'm sponsoring events, I'm exhibiting at events, I'm speaking at events, and it's all there, and it's there for a purpose. And I always say the businesses that I've seen survive, let me take you back to 2007 when I started my very first business. It was a solicitor's practice. Now, you imagine a business starting on the 1st of July 2007. What happened in 2008? We had a major recession. So what did I do as a business? I invested heavily in marketing. I survived, many didn't. My business grew. We didn't even notice the recession. So there are things you can do. I never cut back on my marketing, ever. Even when things get tough, my marketing is something, and my visibility is something that I keep up front, because everybody cuts marketing. And if everybody else is, I'm the one that's going to be seen. So I want to know, by spending that money, by investing in that money, in that marketing and visibility, that I'm going to be in the right rooms, meeting new people and getting my brand out there, my personal brand and my business brand. And hope is not a strategy. You can't just, as I say, hope that people will find you. You need to budget for visibility. You need to budget for your marketing and make sure it's working for you. And the third area is the one I get most excited about, is my personal and professional development, because that is an investment in the business, and it's an investment in myself as well. And it's not selfish. because I believe when you grow, your business grows too. That might be coaching, mentoring, training, or even those powerful business retreats. And I've just come back from 5 days in Malta. Well, it was actually a 2.5-day business retreat, but I tagged on a couple of days rest at the start. And let me tell you, for clarity and focus, the amount I gained was worth every single penny. Not just that, but the connections and the conversations with others on that retreat. That has led to business as well. It's bizarre how it's opened up other opportunities. Sometimes when you step out of your everyday environment, you finally get the space to think strategically instead of being stuck in that day-to-day constant firefighting. What's next? What's next? What's next? And that's the reason I went 2 days early and had that space clearing time in the sunshine just to clear out my brain and have conversations about non-businessy stuff and to enjoy the sunshine and to enjoy my surroundings, so that on the Monday morning when the business retreat and the everything we were doing started, I was completely fresh and ready to soak up everything that was coming my way. So as I say, I had conversations in Malta that sparked ideas that I would never have come up with at my desk. And quite often, you may think I take a lot of holidays, but some of those are strategic to get me out of my own environment so that I'm in a different space. And that's where my creativity and my innovation comes in. So what about strategic budgeting? So let's talk strategy, because a budget without a strategy is just numbers on a page. It's nothing more than that. But when you align your budget directly with your business strategy, that's when everything changes. And here's 3 strategy-driven questions to ask yourself. What are my top 3 priorities for the next 90 days? I ask myself this question every single quarter. What are my top 3 priorities? Which areas of spend directly support those priorities? So my priorities for this current quarter is visibility, getting myself out there. I'm making sales, of course, but specifically speaking, exhibiting, sponsoring. So which areas of spend directly support those? Well, it's my marketing budget. Then I look at what could be cut or delayed or restructured without slowing me down. Now, I make no secret, I join masterminds. I find them really powerful. And I've joined a mastermind, but because my diary is so congested, because of those priorities that I'm doing this quarter, I have postponed a mastermind start until January. I needed to postpone that. It's paid for, but I needed to postpone that and restructure something else I wanted to do until the next quarter. This quarter isn't the right quarter for that, so I've moved a huge expenditure into next quarter, but that's going to align with my 2026 goals. So the budget is being transferred into 2026 to make that expenditure, because that's going to be the right time for it. And I've set 3 huge goals for 2026, and I'll be sharing those in a future episode. So let's look at an example. Say my goal the quarter was to increase my client base by 20%. My budget might include more investment in digital marketing, more networking opportunities, or maybe even some referral incentives or affiliate type things as well to generate that extra revenue, those extra clients. At the same time, I might scale back on some non-essential subscriptions or tools that don't directly support that particular growth. So the nice to haves, because we can all have those nice to haves, can't we? But we can't. Somebody once said to me, you can have everything, just not all at once. And that's what I mean when I say strategy and budgeting go hand in hand. You're not just looking backwards at what you spent at the end of the month. You're making intentional, strategic decisions about where you're heading. It's quite heavy, this stuff, isn't it? But I'm really getting into it. I really love it. So stick with me. So here's a quick story for you. A few years ago, January rolled around, and this was before I started implementing strategy. And January came around, and I had 3 big annual subscriptions that were all due to renew in January. Now, things like insurances, things like fees that I pay upfront for the year. And from that moment on, it was like a tidal wave coming in, to be honest. And you know, when you get, oh, I've got to sell something so I can pay for this, you don't want to be like that. This feast and famine stuff, I've eradicated that from my business because I found it really stressful. So what I do now is I build a buffer budget. So I always know I've got that buffer there so that if anything unexpected comes up, I can pay for it. And, you know, that buffer is my safety net. And you know what? It's saved me countless times since. And really building that buffer, I've talked about time management before now. I'm building in buffer time. We'll do that with your financials as well, even if it's just a small percentage. I used to put my VAT away in a separate account and leave it sitting there. But now I make my VAT work for me. I use my VAT as a buffer because I know that's there as an emergency fund. Yes, I've got to pay my VAT. I know when it's got to be paid, but I use it to make it work for me. I don't just leave money, large sums of money sitting in accounts doing nothing and not working for me. It also gives you that peace of mind and flexibility when the unexpected does happen. So if you're listening to this thinking, oh, I get it, I need to budget smarter, but I also need to get strategic, then I've got something for you. So I made you aware that in April 2024, I signed up for Lisa Johnson's CPD accredited certified business strategist course. I think I signed up at the time because I knew strategy. I've looked at strategy before, but I knew something wasn't working in my business. And when I saw that this course was not only for people that wanted to implement strategy in their own business, but actually they could implement it in their clients' businesses. And as a business mentor, not just a speaker mentor, but I work with people on their business growth. As a business mentor and advisor, I've been doing that for 20 years. I thought this is a really great tool to be able to help my clients. And I've got to say, it's probably the best course I've ever done. It's one of the only ones I've ever completed, apart from Lisa's OTM course. And she's running it for the very last time. She's not going to be delivering this again. So I want to just flag to you at this point in time, probably today, if you're listening to this on the day it comes out, you can learn not only to plan and implement strategy, but use it in your own business, but for other people that you work with as well. It's a great and very credible course, which is CPD accredited. So if you want information on that, the Certified Business Strategist course, just get in touch. I'll put the link in the show notes anyway, but it really is worth considering. And that's where I've got all this planning from. That's where I've got all this financial strategy from. That's where I've really got to know my business from the inside out. I always say that you can't grow something if you haven't put the foundations in place first. And that's what strategy is. So as we approach 2026, now's the perfect time to get your next quarter's budget ready. So I'm working on my January to March budget at the moment. A lot of people call that their quarter one. In my head, it's my quarter four because my year end is the 31st of March. So my quarter, this current quarter, which you may refer to as your Q4, mine's my Q3, October to December at the time of recording, I'm currently investing heavily. I've spent a lot of money on sponsorships, exhibiting and various other things and marketing my brand. Next quarter, I know exactly what my budget spend's going to be, and it's going to be cementing all that and embedding it further in line with my overall business strategy. So have a look at your previous quarter's performance. What really worked well? What didn't? Where did you overspend? Where did you underspend? And then set your next quarter goals. What do you want your revenue growth to be? Have you got debt? Do you want to reduce that? Do you want to launch a new product or service? And set those goals and make them really smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And then break your budget down month by month. Remember, January quite often can bring not only the renewal costs, but it's quite often a very dry month. People don't tend to spend as much in January as they do in other months, except on the old-fashioned January sales. Are they still around? Are they still a thing? Not sure. But yeah, January can be a sparse month for some businesses. So it's really good to flag those. I call them peaks and troughs. Flag your peaks and troughs. Is the school holidays a downtime for you? Does Easter become quiet? Does the summer holidays become quiet? Does Christmas become quiet? Whatever those peaks and trough periods is, plan them in your budget and then create that emergency pot. So you've got that buffer there, even if it's 5 or 10%. Just have it ready just in case. And then check in monthly. I personally, I wouldn't do it quarterly, but yet that is a bare minimum. I would do it monthly, and I will not be waiting till the 31st of March or the 1st of April when I do my accounts. I'm quite prompt there. Don't wait till then. It's too late. Your year's already come to an end if that's your financial year. I keep a check on this right the way through the year, because I know exactly come the 1st of April, I've already started planning out next year's budget and expenditure. I know what the income goals I want and the revenue growth I want, and therefore I know exactly what I've got to do. Now I've got to put in the strategy to bolster that and to build it. So yeah, there is going to be some budgeting in the 2026-27 financial year for me. So that's a lot to take in. I'm feeling quite dry now, but I think it's a really useful topic. And I think my big takeaway from all this is your budget is the tool, but your strategy is the driver behind it. And if you put them together, you'll walk into 2026 with clarity, confidence and control. And you will know your numbers when my judges ask you at my awards, where does your financial standing right now? So don't think of your budget as a restriction. Think of it as your roadmap. And it's how to direct your money to create the business and the lifestyle you actually want. So my challenge to you is, before we get to the end of 2025, sit down and map out what your budget looks like for early 2026. Link it to your strategy. I can't get the words out today. Build in your buffers and decide, are you going to let your money control you, or are you going to take charge and budget for the success you deserve? And you may even decide to have a conversation with your accountant or financial advisor. Get to know your numbers, make them sexy, get to love your numbers. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to know if you're a natural budgeter or if this is something you've been putting off. Just let me know how you get on. And remember, if you're serious about strategy, don't forget Lisa Johnson's final certified business strategist course. Just get in touch. We can jump on a call if you want to know more. It could be the missing piece in your growth puzzle. So until next time, keep being visible, keep being strategic, get to know those numbers, and keep creating your mic drop moments. And I'll be back next week. Thank you for listening to the Mic Drop Moments podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Join me next week for more inspiration, learning, and top tips. Want to work with me on your business growth and strategy, speaking, or simply growing your audience? Just get in touch. Visit womanwho.co.uk to find out how you can start your speaking and visibility journey, or even feature on a future podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's podcast. And if there are any topics you would like to hear, just get in touch with me, your host, Sandra Garlick.